T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Coach on Fire Radio.
I am the tiger, dancing through the fire. 'Cause I am the champion, and you're gonna hear me roar.
Well, hello there, my business owning entrepreneurial friends. It's Jason Withers here live with the Profit Levers radio show on Coach on Fire Radio. Thanks very much for listening in today. I hope you've had or are in the midst of having a great day. I'm always very, very happy to be here doing this show for you. Great guests, great topics to help you with growing more profitable businesses, and that makes it all so much more worthwhile. Some housekeeping items before we get into the main part of today's show, which is going to be talking with my very special guest today, Dr. Lindsay Padilla. Lindsay's going to be talking to us about beta courses and why they're an important part of the process as we create online digital products and, of course, greater profitability. I recently had the great fortune to be a student of Lindsay's, and all I can say is that you're in for a treat on today's show because she is absolute magic when it comes to developing courses with impact and, of course, profit. Really looking forward to today's show. I've got so many questions I want to ask, but before that, for any of our new listeners, the Profit Levers radio show is brought to you by Coach on Fire Radio, and it's a fortnightly show airing at midday PST, 3 p.m. EST and 8 p.m. GMT every fortnight. And so our next show will be on Monday, August the 20th at the same time. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes to catch up, or obviously subscribe to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. So you can follow me on social media too, which you can do on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Jason A. Withers. And you can also access my free community there, same name as the radio show, The Profit Levers. On Instagram and Twitter, you can find me under the handle at Jason A. Withers. For those of you that haven't met me before, I'm a profit growth strategist, profit mentor, and profit transformer for both entrepreneurs and owner-managed businesses. I'm also a profit-first professional coach. So that means I help ambitious online entrepreneurs and owner-managed businesses just like yours live and love a more profitable existence. So that means a more fulfilling life for you, more time, more freedom to do more of the things that you want to do. We do it simply, we do it efficiently, but most importantly, we always do it together. So hard work, that hard work shouldn't go unrewarded, of course, but unfortunately so often it does. So we start with the brilliance of an individual or an idea that turns into a business, and that's where it all starts. It evolves and it grows, most often just because it does. Decisions get made, gut instinct, graft, they're all the things that make it happen, but often that's reactive. And it's not actually intentional behavior that we find drives us. So we need to get intentional about making sure that we get the profit out of our business that matches up with the effort that we put in. But too often we miss the profit and we miss out on the things in life that we actually want to be doing because we're too busy working too hard to earn that profit. It's ridiculous, I know, but it's just how it always seems to go down. So in the coming weeks, I'll be continuing to interview a series of guests who are going to help us create some more profitable businesses, sharing their expertise, and most importantly, how to utilize that expertise to generate profit in our businesses. Through the second half of 2018, we've got copywriters, designers, web experts, life coaches, systems geeks, and marketing mavens lined up, all going to be bringing you the very best of what they have to offer. And they're going to be giving us the lowdown on how you can leverage those skills to create a more profitable business for yourself. Now, before we get into all the goodness that Lindsay's going to be talking to us about today, just a quick reminder, the Profit Levers methodology. 3 things are going to influence our profit, sales, margin, and overhead. And you can get the details on how that happens and why that works off of the free download, which is on the pin post on my Facebook page. So I believe in profit as the commercial imperative and the commercial non-negotiable. Why is that? Well, because I believe profit gives you choices in life. More profit gives us more freedom. That gives us more choices, allowing us to make more impact. And that's personally, socially, and in business, of course. It's not just a one-dimensional choice that we get. So it really is that simple to me, and I want it to be for you too. So let's get on with today's show and discover how we can help make our businesses more profitable by addressing today's topic, using beta courses as a route to a more efficient profit. So, Dr. Lindsay Padilla, I'm very sorry about that, Lindsay. That's terrible, isn't it? That's
no
absolutely
worries.
Terrible. Okay, let's start that bit again. Dr. Lindsay Padilla is the founder of Course Power, a company that helps trailblazing entrepreneurs create student-centered courses. content, and communities that gets their clients A+ results. Using her tenure-track years spent teaching adults online at a community college and the ridiculous amount of learning she's done in all things education, the team specialises in supporting digital entrepreneurs with the early stages of course or program creation. And that focuses on optimising content and elevating the experience using student feedback. Can't forget the students, of course. So with this unique background, she is also the rambunctious host of the Academics Mean Business podcast, which shares the journeys of other academics who've started businesses. So I've learned something today already, Lindsay, by looking up the word rambunctious. And I have to tell you, that is some word. And I have to say, for actually having had the joy of actually being a student of yours, absolutely straightforward, and I totally get it.
I love it.
So you can connect with Lindsay through our website, lindsaypadilla.com, and we'll be posting all of Lindsay's other social profiles on the replay for you today as well. Lindsay's going to be talking to us about how we can take an idea for an online digital course, beta test it, and then utilize that learning experience from the beta test to create an even more effective and impactful course for future students. We're going to be talking about the differences in a teacher's and an entrepreneur's mindset. Lindsay has seen both sides of that equation, so that's going to be great to dig into that. How we can become better teachers as entrepreneurs. We'll also be looking at how we can optimize course content, course success, however we end up defining that, and how to create course material that is a win-win for both the entrepreneur and the student. So we can work hard for our profit, or we can choose to learn how to work in the most efficient way for our business. So I don't know about you, Lindsay, but I've yet to meet an entrepreneur that doesn't want to know how to make a bigger profit whilst enjoying more time freedom and a less problematic life. And digital courses are seen to be a big part of that equation for so many entrepreneurs now. How do you see that at the moment?
Yeah. So thanks for having me on, Jason, by the way. This is
so
super
welcome.
fun.
I'm so looking forward to this.
This will be great. I'm excited for this conversation, and especially since you were a student of my beta course, beta course on betas. But
it worked.
It worked. So I think when you and I first talked about me coming on, I was like, it's so interesting because I never thought about its connection by creating a beta course and getting it out there sooner rather than later, its connection to profit and being able to have sustainability in your business as it relates to profit. So I think it really aligns with what you teach. And this idea that paying ourselves first and having ourselves, have money set aside from the labor we've created is huge. So that lines up perfectly with the reason why you would launch a beta. And that is because in this space, what you exactly said, entrepreneurs are trying to leverage their time. There's only so many hours in the day. So if you start with one-on-one service work done for you kind of situation, which you are probably helping people with coaching and maybe helping them with their profit plan. Exactly. There's only so much Jason to go around. So how do you leverage your knowledge, right? How do you leverage your knowledge and how do you help people? So sure, people who, get access to you are probably paying a pretty penny, but is there a way to teach your framework in a more done DIY way, right? Do it yourself way. And that's where the online course comes in. So me as a professor for many years, teaching online actually for almost every single one of those years, I started to get efficient in my online course experience because there is something about the online course that can be made efficient. There are processes that happen. There are pre-scheduled events that you can have set up that really actually helps you leverage your time even more. But your connection to your students in that space is still really important. And you want to make that connection as optimized as possible. So when you show up, your students are excited that you're there. And I think that is a little bit different than this idea of putting a couple videos together and worksheets and then sending it out and just being like, okay, good luck. And if you bought it and you didn't get anything of it, or you just bookmarked it, that's your fault. Sorry, bye. Yeah. And those have their places, but you have to recognize that this impact that you're hoping to make probably isn't going to come from that type of course. So the beta course comes into play when you're really trying to actually make efficient your course that first run, learning from your students as you kind of watch them, you listen to them as they experience your content for the first time. Because as a teacher myself in the like face-to-face world, the first time I taught my class, that first moment when I was by myself in front of my students, and that first semester, I mean, I was winging it. I was like one chapter ahead, and spending many hours studying and writing my lectures and trying to create this amazing student experience because I really cared about my students and I had to face them like in person. So I couldn't really like just totally wing it, but I did a little bit. And I just kept getting better and better. And I think that I wanted to take actually to this online space and really communicate that it doesn't matter how you set up your course. Even if you set up perfectly, something's going to be off. You're not going to be, your students maybe aren't where you thought they were, or they got confused on something that you thought was really easy, or the way you explained something, you actually like mumbled up the words and they didn't get it, right? So that kind of stuff is going to come out in a beta version. And if you do your beta in a flexible way, it's going to make your course more efficient in the long run. And we can get into details about that today, but like the work you do in the beta is actually setting you up for a more efficient, more leverageable, better experience for your students every iteration, even if you decide to evergreen it or launch, you know, a couple times a year.
Yeah, I have to say the experience of going through, as you say, the beta to create betas was was really really interesting for me, and some of the things that we went through. And you've touched on so many of the pieces already, to be fair. But just that moment of thinking, yes, the difference between coming from a really academic background and what I will call a traditional teaching, standing in front of a class, be that in a school or university, college, whatever level that is, to be a very different experience than traditionally through the medium of video or Zoom meetings and those sorts of things for online workshops. And that was really quite interesting. So I'm going to come back to a lot of the things that you've talked about in there, but I wonder if you could just take us back. How did you, although you mentioned that you've been teaching online, how did you really transition into that online space from the very physical classroom presence? What was the catalyst for you that sort of made you make the leap? Yeah,
from academia into running my own business and doing that. Okay, So, oh gosh, I mean, it's funny, like there are multiple catalysts, right? There are things that build up and then it's just like tipping point, right? So I think for me, one of the initial things, and this comes from a very like profit-oriented perspective, was my pay scale. I don't know how they do it in the UK, but at least with the community college system, which also is very different than four-year institutions in the United States and probably across the world. In the community college system, we actually had something called a pay scale. It might be kind of cool to do a screenshot of one. Just Google pay scale at a community college and you'll find one. But what it is it's like basically across the top are the years of education. So starting with like an AA degree, which is 2 years of community college, all the way through getting a PhD. And in some institutions, the PhD gets an extra stipend per whatever. So that's across the top. Then on the left-hand side of the table is years at the institution. And again, everyone's table looks different because they're all operating within their own unions and all of that. And they all have their own budgets. But essentially, it'll just count 1 through 20. And sometimes they even skip a few years if that's a really shitty timeline. But basically, you actually can see, okay, by year 5, if I have a doctorate degree, this is my pay. And everyone who has that same pay, and same year, whatever, gets paid that. And so then the union goes and asks for raises, and then everyone gets bumped up, and they ask sometimes for different levels. But what's weird about it is, year 20, it actually has a stop. That's what was weird to me, almost all the institutions I saw, they stopped at year 20. And all the way over was the 5-year. And at the school that I worked at, I mean, I should screenshot my school, but it was something like $130,000 would be my salary. I mean, you're moving up like $200 a month, every year and like you can kind of compound that. And sure, there were these little surges of things, and there was things you could get stipends for and extra courses you could take or teach, and you could teach overload is what they called it. And there was ways to grab money in other perspectives, but they all took more time.